And we should be live.
Let's
You're
go.
recording on your end?
Yes.
Alright. Oh, I don't think I'm on camera. Now I'm on camera. There we go.
Wait.
How do we do this again? It's been a couple months.
We just talk about dirt.
We just talk about dirt. Oh, yeah. Hi, this is BenG with a J. If it's your first time here, this is a podcast where we talk about dirt, or we don't talk about dirt. This is one of the episodes where we do talk about dirt.
That's true, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that kind of covers every topic in existence, so there we go. Yeah, gotta do that. Quick background on this. I'm doing this in part for a class project for my urban agriculture class, so that's part of the reason we do the topic, but this was honestly something we had talked about doing beforehand otherwise, just because this is very related to your interests.
Yeah, relatively related.
That's true.
I'm Margie. I'm an environmental geoscience student, and I do have a focus on mostly non-dirt related sciences, but I'm a dirt hobbyist.
Yeah. So it's not like you're necessarily studying dirt. And every time we're saying dirt here, we kind of are meaning soil, but also dirt's a more fun word.
Dirt is a fun word. It's used in at least one Red Hot Chili Peppers song that I can think of.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's used in more.
Well, dirty is probably used in a lot.
That is true. Dirt is a very useful word.
It's a very...
If we go into the linguistics about it, it's just very useful in a way that soil is not. Like soil, you're talking about it. This is very important discussion.
Alright, so the difference between dirt and soil, as what I remember it being, and I could be very wrong, is that soil includes like the living component of dirt, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like the ecosystems that occur, obviously like trails left behind by burrowing creatures. I don't think that would count as dirt, but
Mm-hmm.
that counts in the soil. Just a bunch of organic matter. When I think of dirt, I just think of the dry shit that you find. Oh, are we allowed to swear?
Yeah, we can.
The dry stuff you find on the sidewalk.
I mean, I feel like shit is an important thing to consider with dirt.
That would be with soil.
Soil, yeah, because that's organic matter.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. That shit is good in this case.
Yes.
Because it makes stuff healthier. That's what I was going to say manure is, but I'm thinking fertilizer, which is basically manure. I know one or two things about dirt. Alright, I just got a few background slides here to talk about stuff, but really we're just going to try and have a conversation about the presence of soil in urban environments and just different aspects of soil that are important to consider when thinking about society as a whole. So something I've been learning about is about basically urban soil, soil in cities is absolutely terrible when compared to like normal soil. Good example is this picture they have here. What we got here basically, there's usable parts of soil, there's healthy parts of soil where things are actually grown, and then there's parts of soil that stuff isn't really grown. And basically, soil used on farms and stuff has a lot of that growable soil, whereas soil in cities, due to all the developments in it, basically all of that is gone. Right?
Yeah, immediately what I see when I look at these two, because admittedly I don't look at particularly agricultural or urban soil, is the lack of the O horizon, which
Mm-hmm.
would be that organic matter we were talking about that makes the soil healthy. So that would be just sitting on top of the A horizon, and you could tell the difference with how like dark the soil would be.
Gotcha.
There would be like, in most cases, a definite borderline between the O and the A horizon, but I don't see that in either of these.
So you're saying neither of these are particularly bountiful soils?
Mm-hmm. And we could definitely get into that later with my slides.
Yes.
I think I focused more on the agricultural soil than the urban soil. But...
Well, it's going to be all a good contrast between it.
Mm-hmm.
Because the idea behind it is urban environments trying to capitalize on soil is going to need to problem solve a bit harder to be able to grow anything extravagant on top of that soil.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's so worn down, so beaten up. And trying to figure out what the best solution is to do that, how feasible is growing in the city.
Oh, yeah.
Continuing on with it, yeah. this is just a couple of pie graphs of, hey, once again, urban soils are worse than just soils in the forest. If you just look at the stuff that you can grow on it, I feel like I don't even have to explain these pie charts that much. It's very self-evident of, hey, the stuff that makes soil useful for nutrients, for being able to produce plants, that's just more present in forest soils than there are in urban soils.
Yeah, like most of those nutrients would be in the organic soil, which is about 2 to 5% in the forest soils, but only 1% in the urban soils.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So.
And I mean, those numbers aren't very high on either of them, but I don't know what the actual percent normally is for...
I don't know, but think about how deep like soil goes before it hits like any kind of like rock or bedrock, you know?
Yeah. Soil. I guess soil is a word I'd underrate as well. You can say like you soiled it. Do the SpongeBob soiled it.
Is that a SpongeBob reference?
I think so.
Hashtag soiled it.
Is that a reference?
No. Might be a reference to SpongeBob, I don't know.
I don't know either. Words are funky.
Words are funky. I've like basically found myself surrounded by English majors.
Mm-hmm.
Like, my boyfriend's an English major. One of my best friends, one of our roommates, is an English major. And my dungeon master for the D&D game I'm in is an English master. Or
English master.
She is, truly. I mean, yeah. She is a master of the English language.
I feel like all English majors are either English masters or English novices.
Yeah. Em and I were talking about this when I was in like 12th grade and I went through my first like college English class through my high school. I was like, you know, I think I could just end my like literature English knowledge here and I'd be set for life. Like I was so confident in it. I was like, I got an A in this one class. I'm good. Mm-hmm. And now like, was it 4 years? I think the only writing course I've taken in like an actual writing course was technical writing, and my like reading comprehension skills have tanked.
I feel like back in high school or even middle school, I was so good at reading books and being able to get so interested in that and going with that, and something changed my free will. I liked reading books even when I read them for class, and now I just can't get myself to sit down with a book for too long.
Wild. Same. I'm trying to get through The Overstory, which I don't know if anyone listening has heard of it, but if you want to talk about soils, that's a good book.
That's a good book?
It's, I guess, like, not necessarily soils, but it's, like, a bunch of short stories based around, like, the earth itself and, like conservation. I'm not super far into it, so I could be wrong on how much, like, whatever emphasizes. But it's all these fictional stories based around, like, earth and, like, the science of earth and how much it integrates itself into our culture.
That seems like a really important piece of, like, media that can... I like the ideas behind that. That seems interesting.
Honestly, I learned about it through, like I said, my English major roommate who read about it in a class. And so, it's a really good book.
Awesome.
So far. It hurts, though.
Also, welcome Matthias Martel to the podcast. Fun to see you here. It's always nice to see you a part of the stream. We're just talking about soil and dirt today.
Lots of dirt.
It's a pretty fun topic that everyone loves, you know?
Dirty stream.
I don't think you can say that one.
Oh, no.
I feel like that might be false advertisement. All right, let's talk a bit about soil contamination. So, there's this thing, I don't know if people have heard about it, it's called pollution, and it's kind of ruining the world right now.
Kind of sucks.
Yeah, like, turns out, pumping gases into the environment and just polluting everything possible is bad. It turns out that's not a good thing for the environment, and one of the reasons that it's bad is with soil. The more that you do that, essentially what this graph is showing right here, I'm going to simplify it as much as I can by just saying, if you pollute stuff, that's eventually going to make the soil worse.
It's like, it's a positive feedback cycle.
Yeah.
A negative positive feedback cycle.
Yes. It's positive feedback in, like, the coding sense, or how positive feedback cycles work. But you get worse environment through, like, pollution or whatnot. That goes through the environment through just normal carbon cycles and whatnot. And then that eventually is going to make the soil worse. The soil being worse makes the environment worse as well. And that, just a positive feedback loop where without stopping it, just it's going to be a chain reaction that continuously makes soil worse. Along with everything else in the world worse. I mean...
Yeah, like ocean acidification, that's up there. Soil, just bringing carbon into the atmosphere. The ocean with when calcium carbonate dissolves and then is just brought into the atmosphere, more carbon. Was it carbon stored in the ice sheets? That's bad.
Yeah.
The ice sheets melting into the atmosphere just keeps getting worse and worse.
Hot take, climate change, not good.
It's pretty garbage.
I think I might be the only person with that opinion, but we probably got to do something about it.
I could see your take on that.
This is really just showing the same thing, but in another way. I just copied these over because there were some good graphics from some of the sources I read beforehand, but we don't need to focus too much on them. Essentially, our entire ecosystem has a lot of different aspects to it, and you can put them all together, and they all rely on each other, lean on each other, and are impacted by each other. So the more that we mess with our planet and mess with those normal cycles, the more it's going to fight back in the system and potentially mess with us, because that's how cycles work. Yeah. I don't think there's too much more I need to talk about that, but soils are getting contaminated. It is continuously happening. It's looping. It's not good.
Everything is bad.
Yeah. This is soil as a greenhouse gas sink or source. Basically, soil has a part in the climate change process too. I don't know. From reading about this, it's hard to describe like the whole carbon cycle in a way that is most explicitly understood, other than climate change is bad and soil contamination and all these aspects of it. Soil is a part of this carbon cycle, and it's going to be important to consider it when trying to figure out how to deal with this climate change. Right?
Yeah. I agree.
Alright, cool. We can keep going through this.
I wish I could comment more on these cycles, but I know that I would just confuse myself. Like with the nitrification, denitrification.
Oh, as someone who has not taken a biology class since 10th grade? No, I took it 11th grade. That's weird. I have forgotten more of this than I would like to admit. My AP biology, I tested fine enough to say I didn't need to do it in college, but I don't remember all of this well enough. There's just a bunch of elemental signals here, and I'm trying to remember what all of them mean, but I remember the core mechanics of it, and the idea of it is basically everything's a cycle, and we're modifying the cycles, and that's bad because it's modifying the cycles more and more because it's a cycle, and essentially that's making everything here bad.
As Caduceus Clay said in Critical Role, everything is bad and we're running.
Yeah.
I wish we could run, actually.
It would be not, well, that's what, we were talking about this earlier today. That's why people are trying to colonize Mars.
Oh yeah, that's true. We were talking about the colonization of Mars and how there should be more board games about Venus tectonics.
There's like 5, okay, maybe not 5, but I can think of at least 3 different board games off the top of my head that deal with the colonization of Mars. And there's none about the tectonic systems of Venus. So, get on that, board game designers.
Now that's a topic that I think a lot of people would like to play as a board game.
I feel like a tectonic play board game could actually work really well.
Probably.
I don't know if you are like playing as people trying to survive an earthquake or playing as the earthquake trying to kill everyone.
Oh! Okay, wait, hold on. Pandemic, right? Kind of like the same, like, cooperation thing. But you can turn around and play as a thing trying to, like... Oh, okay. Never mind.
We need plants to decorate amusement parks, so it is okay, yes. That is... plants are important for a lot of things, but its most important aspect is definitely to make our theme parks more fun. I agree.
Is this one of your Roller Coaster Tycoon fans?
Yes.
Oh, hi!
It's a fun time.
I like Zoo Tycoon better.
That makes sense. I'm not gonna roast Zoo Tycoon or anything. I like Zoo Tycoon.
Oh. Okay, I thought you were saying I'm not going to roast Zoo Tycoon because I don't want to get into it.
I do prefer Roller Coaster Tycoon, but I can get the love for Zoo Tycoon. It's got stuff going for it. Animals are fun.
Animals are so fun. I also think it's the only one I played as a kid. It's a nostalgia factor.
Yeah. They need a Dirt Tycoon.
Dirt Tycoon. Okay.
What would that look like?
Hold on. When I was, like, really into, like, taking this class, I thought the coolest... This is not about Dirt Tycoon.
Don't worry about it.
The coolest thing would be an accurate Minecraft mod about soil science.
Okay, I was actually thinking about that a couple of days ago. How the way that growing stuff is always in video games, it's not like... If we're taking the city example about this, in Minecraft you could just take a piece of dirt and move it to the middle of your urban area, and it works like that. That's not how soil works, right?
Yeah.
Like...
You're taking basically just this tiny piece of an ecosystem and moving it to a place where it's like all the outside variables contributing to this soil's health, you take those away. And boom, it's like thrive now.
Life is not like Minecraft in this way. We can't take dirt and put it somewhere else to make it work. It makes me wonder if games... I know there's city builders are really, like, in-depth nowadays, thinking, like, City Skylines or games like that, SimCity-like, but I wonder if they could add in some sort of environmental aspect to it, or if they have that. I wouldn't know. Maybe there is one that does have it where it's a game, you have to worry about getting your plants to work, you have to have plants that fit into your environment. If you try and plant plants that don't work, they're not going to work. You have to worry about your soil health. And I know this is probably too complicated for a game like that, but if you make that the focus of a game, kind of a gardening simulator...
No, like, legit, I would play that so much.
I think that would be really popular, and I feel like that would be a good lesson for a lot of the ideas behind soil that we're talking about.
I mean, think about how many games are based on, like, farming and, what else do you do in Minecraft?
I mean, it's like...
Fishing?
Mm-hmm.
I think a game based... I didn't mean to interrupt, I'm sorry.
No, go.
I think a game, like, literally whenever I play Minecraft, all I do is farm and I fish. I think a game where you add, like, a more in-depth, like, mechanic to that, like, give me some, mollisols, give me some oxysols, give me some more fish. Minecraft, let's get on to being allowed to breed fish. That's, like, one of my biggest complaints about Minecraft. I want to have salmon farm, tilapia farm, add in hydroponics or aquaponics to a game. Like, I would quit everything in my life and just do that.
I feel like there is a market for that too. There's like Stardew Valley is so popular.
Yeah.
But I don't know Stardew Valley enough. I don't think it has a system set up where it's going to be like, hey, you have to worry about your soil. You have to change your crops every year to make it so you get a better yield. You have to think about all this. I feel like adding those in-depth elements, there's a market for that.
100%. Take out the romance of Stardew Valley and add more dirt.
I feel like, okay, that's maybe not the popular opinion, but I would like that. I think that would be really interesting.
I would like that. Or maybe make more romanceable characters in Stardew Valley.
Can you romance the dirt?
Make it so you can romance the dirt.
I'd like to marry the dirt and have a dirt baby.
Oh my gosh. Have you seen, there's this one, what's it called? Not Vine. TikTok. I've seen it so many times that the guy with, like, he has this baby that just, like, scuttles so fast. I'm gonna find that.
Where did this come from? From me saying dirt baby?
I think if, like, me and, like, some dirt had a child, it would be incredibly fast and incredibly, like, I don't know. I'm not saying that dirt is fast. I just feel like the vibes are there.
You're fast.
Thank you. I just learned I can't jump very high, but I'm still, like, getting over it. So.
Don't worry, dirt can jump high.
Dirt can jump high, right? Like, can you just imagine, like, a baby molded out of dirt just, like, scuttling on the ground like a spider? I would love that thing so much.
Why isn't that in the MCU?
MCU, don't take my ideas.
You gotta write this first. You could pitch it to them. Just be a comic writer.
I've thought about it. I have multiple, like, superhero, like... I played in a superhero D&D game, so I have multiple characters where I'm like, this is so much more marketable than, like, what? Iron Man? That's so silly! Anti-Iron Man.
He's not Iron Man, he's Metal Man.
Metal.
It's not all iron, is it?
FE3 Man.
So dirt.
Ferrous Oxide Man.
I feel like we were both very on topic there for a while and got completely off topic, but I'm really interested in the idea of a dirt-based video game where it's just a farming simulator-esque, but it's all really about, like, soil health. I feel like there's actually a market for that. That's something that I never would have thought of without this.
Oh, I've thought about this. I guess more as a Minecraft mod.
Yeah.
And more of a, like, conservation standpoint than a urban city-building game standpoint, but...
Yeah, if the government was good at propaganda, they would just get Farmville, but for dirt, and then that would teach everyone, hey, we need to save the planet, and then the planet would be saved. But the government's focused on other things right now, so whatever.
Who is focused on anything but dirt right now?
It's a lot of this podcast.
Valid. I have, like, legit, just thinking about dirt, I'm in, like... I don't know if a euphoric state is a good point. Like,
you're on a high.
I'm on a high. I love dirt.
Talking about dirt, drinking coffee. What's
literally going on a Friday, no less.
It's beautiful. Friday, just past noon. Great times.
Got a lot of stuff to turn in, but it's fine. Not thinking about it. My mom texted me this morning, "Happy Friday," and I responded, "I want it all to be over."
Oh no!
Which I know, like,
that sounds terrible.
Sounds terrible. I was just in, like, this state of, like, I have a bunch of projects due, as we all do, final season.
Yep.
Like, just you and I are about to graduate soon, so, like, I can see why she didn't think that's what I was trying to say. But I soon got a call from my mom and was like, "Are you okay? Let's talk about this." I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm fine. I'm just mad at this, like, presentation I'm making." And she's like, "Oh, so that's what you meant." I was like,
okay. You can definitely see concern from that phrase, but I think it worked. Right. I'm going to move to the next slide. We've been staring at this one enough.
Okay, so as you can see, we're moving into my slides because I like to put 2 images per slide as opposed to BenG's one.
I had 2 images per slide early on into the project, and I'm like, I can split this into multiple slides.
Yeah, it's not like we have a, like...
Slide limit or yeah.
Time limit.
But, I mean, this lets you compare stuff better, so...
Oh, yeah, I love doing this. I have looked at so many different, like, graphics of the state of Minnesota and overlined them, and, like, this is all I do with my major. Alright, so let's look at this. Soil suborders of Minnesota. I also just put this because you see that J. Bell right there?
Mm-hmm.
That was my professor.
Oh, fun!
Yeah, I found this online, and I'm like, yeah.
Cool.
I know that guy.
It's like when you're writing a research project and you cite the author who is your professor who's going to be grading the project.
It's like...
That's what I'm doing with my thesis, where, like, half of mine are... The professor I'm doing the thesis under are his sightings, and, like, he'll send me this, like, you should add this into your paper, and it's his paper. I'm like, yeah, I should. You are the expert on this, so.
Very cool. That's so fun.
I might need to move the face cam to see the bottom of that. I mean, I don't think it's covering up too much.
It's just covering the U stalls, and those are basically useless. Correct. Actually, they're not. They're like the dry prairie soils.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So, yeah, describe to me a little bit about the differences between these soils.
So, alright. Now I'm put on the spot. Basically, like, that is blocking it a little bit, but, ultimately...
I can try and move it.
The majority, and I could be completely wrong on this, because there's very little information out there on Minnesota land cover.
That's not the right one. 1 second.
Technical difficulties.
I think that moved it. As far as I can tell, that moved it.
It's okay. If not, everything is fine, and I'm not worried about it. So, as you can see, I've, like, kind of just what's the word that Brian May from Queen does?
I wouldn't be able to tell you that.
It's not a stereoscopic image. I am just blatantly misusing that word. No English majors come for me.
Yeah, we've already offended them enough by calling them... That was me. I call them English novices.
English novices, don't come at me. I use the phrase stereoscopic image, which I learned from Brian May from Queen.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm basically a, English master?
Yes.
Alright, so, as you can see, like, where farmland is in Minnesota, or, like, the crops and shit, overlies with kind of, like, the oodles of the, Minnesota soils. And so basically what oodles are like wetter prairie soils. I know I mentioned oostals, which are just right here.
A little bit in the corner.
Which are the dry prairie soils. Let me see my notes actually. So yeah, the western half and the southern third of Minnesota are a lot of oodles, which is where we happen to have a lot of our crops because the wet prairie soils allow us to grow like corn and soybeans. At least those are the dominant crops, which, do you know about, what are Minnesota's? I think corn, right?
Corn makes sense to me.
Alright, sweet. Sorry, I should have looked that up before this. And you can see as you get into northeastern, that's a lot of the, salmons. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. But yeah, I'm basically just focusing on the oodles where, like I said, the wet prairie soil makes it pretty good for growing crops. And it's really fun just to see, like, how much the soil affects what we use our land for. And I'm super sorry for the blurry 2013 land cover image.
Everything was blurry in 2013.
That's true. I was blurry in 2013. Nothing could have been perceived in 2013. I tried to find, like, more recent graphs, and it was surprisingly difficult. Which I'm a little sus of, but maybe I just wasn't looking in the right place.
It's hard to find figures sometimes.
Yeah.
Some stuff is just not easy enough to find compared to what it feels like it should be.
So yeah, it's kind of, I just wanted to show.
It's really fun. Yeah, you can see the comparison of the maps side by side. Having two pictures on the side is really good here because you can see, like, I mean, it's pretty obvious if you think about it, but all of the connections between the types of soil and the different classifications here are pretty much a match together. The color matching on this two maps do work. You can see the different regions that are impacted in the same way.
Mm-hmm. It's very fun. Very cool. Very fun.
Mm-hmm.
I'm from northeastern Minnesota, so I feel like my knowledge of... I didn't realize this until we were researching this. Like, my knowledge of agriculture in urban, like, anything, is so little. Like, I don't think I could have pointed out the metro area on the map.
No?
No, I'm very bad at locations.
Can you do it on the right map?
Oh, yeah. Here. Oh, I looked it up before this, so I was able to be like, oh, yeah, this is where...
But, I mean, that's another idea, something going towards the idea of urban soil being worse. I'm going to move the webcam back to the corner before I forget. But, yeah, having this whole area down here be darker, it's more impervious. There's more development in that place because it's the Twin Cities is where it's going. And even though it's got the river there to just trying to make the whole land more functional, make everything better, useful in society, we've used so much of that land for building the stuff up that trying to recollect that soil or having other elements. Again, we can't Minecraft the soil in there. We can't Minecraft good soil in there because it's not going to stay good soil. Mm-hmm. There's not enough matter there. We have to really be smart and plan out how to deal with that.
Do we know how much swamp and peat is around the Twin Cities area?
I have no idea.
I have no idea either. We're doing good at this. When I did a huge soil science project, it was all on northeastern Minnesota. Mm-hmm. And, what was it for? Oh yeah, growing wild ramps. Have you ever heard of ramps?
No.
It's a type of vegetable. It's like what, a leek? Kind of like...
Does it taste good?
I've never had it.
I've never heard of it.
It's like native to Minnesota, and it's like basically in the 1800s, we just stripped the land of all wild ramps. So I was like a part of like, I want to say a ramp conservation project or a ramp reintroduction project in northeastern Minnesota, but we had 240 acres that I was like looking into and working on, and like I had walked these acres, or a good part of it, a lot. And it was just surprising to me about how much of it was considered like swamp and peat. That has nothing to do with anything.
I mean, it does have stuff to do with stuff.
But you could tell, like with the, I think about like walking here at Fort Snelling and then like walking like that 240 acres. You can tell how much organic matter is in the soil just by like, I guess you can't just take a cross section of the soil, but just by like feeling it, looking at it, like these like almost black soil, like up north, and then here I just think about like, I don't know. I'm in a lot of places where the sandstone has eroded into like, you know, sand. So
it's more just, wow, that was loud. That was my water bottle hitting on the side of my chair as I dangled it from my fingers. For anyone at home could not see what was happening there. Yeah, it is interesting just to think on all different aspects. Like, we're talking about urban soil in particular, how that's getting destroyed, but like soil everywhere is getting destroyed with the current climate change process. It's not limited to just the urban areas where they're dealing with it at a higher rate. Probably more important is all the agricultural places where there's more space to grow a larger amount of food. There's not enough room to grow like a self-sustaining Twin Cities market in, well, the Twin Cities. There's not enough to do like all the food that you want to grow in that area. You have to get it from other places within the state if you're going to do that, because how many people are living there versus how many... It's just a calorie question, basically. You can't grow enough calories, produce enough in that small of a region. So...
Oh, sorry.
No, go for it.
You were on a good tangent there. I did. If you want to say more.
I've lost it.
Oh no! Oh no! I was gonna bring up something.
No, go for it.
Have you ever heard of Cooking Companions, the new horror game?
No.
Do you watch Game Theory? Okay. Part of it is learning about like calories and human consumption.
Okay.
But
I mean, that's kind of the concept of it. Back onto the train. You help me. Okay.
All right.
Trying to figure out how to best utilize our space on this planet, on our country, on our state, in our towns, to be able to... We talk a lot in our urban agriculture class about food deserts, trying to deal with food justice issues, and how urban agriculture is a way to help deal with that. Help figure out the best way to manage a community to be able to cater towards their needs in an equitable way, such that potential misgivings from people living in the city aren't, like, gone. And while it is something that's supplemental, it's not something that's going to be feasible as a primary solution. And that's why we still need to worry about the degrading of the agricultural soil and all of these issues that we're having with that, with climate change and with pollution, contamination. The fertility of these soils aren't getting any better. So we need to figure out the best way to do that. Agricultural systems, just in the world in general, have terraformed the land of the earth. It has allowed for human evolution. Like, humans wouldn't be what they are without the invention of agriculture. It's probably one of the most important inventions in history. But it's also coming with a cost that we're starting to face now, which is the well is running dry. Not right away and not fully, but it's slowing down. I don't know if anything I just said makes sense, but...
No, I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think another important variable to add into that is kind of like, obviously, the American mindset right now with agriculture is like, get the most out of it as much as you can. Meanwhile, there was like, before colonization, indigenous communities were able to get food and work like with the earth and be able to do like conservation agriculture, you know, where it's like you're able to support how much people you have on that land without destroying it. And then, like, what was it? I think with the buffalo, that sort of example is when people were able to find out, like, oh, if we scare the entire herd off the cliff, we can get as much food as we want. But that's the negative feedback.
Mm-hmm.
That's a negative feedback loop where it's like they just keep like losing the amount and we're not getting what we need back.
You have to plan for the future, and that's something that humanity is not always that good at.
Mm-hmm.
We're not good at realizing that resources that are limited are still going to be limited because we're evolved to try and do the best for ourselves and only ourselves. You know?
This is one of my like favorite quotes, and I'm just saying like the gist of it because I don't remember exactly what that quote is like
You're
paraphrasing it, where it's like the truest form of love is an elderly person planting a tree so that the younger generation can sit in the shade.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's like, why can't we just do that with everything, dude? Like, why can't we just set
Why can't
ourselves
the world
up for
just
success?
be good where everyone old is like, I care about the young, and everyone's young is like, I respect the old because they care for the young?
Yeah, it's like, everyone's like, why don't you respect the older generation? Once boomers have earned my respect, that's... I'm kidding. Yeah.
And on that note, we'll move on.
Alright.
Oh. There we go.
Alright, yeah, and I don't know if, like, obviously, like, geology student, I'm going to talk about geomorphology.
Yes.
But before we get into the geomorphology, I just wanted to point out this little helpful diagram of the Tilde system and the no-till ecosystem where I know I keep mentioning, like, the O horizon, but it really is important where it's like, yeah, high organic matter in the no-till ecosystem, yet with the tilled, like, see that black layer on the top? Almost nothing, which is not going to get the nutrients that you need. You know, if you're not letting things live and die on the land, like, you're going to lose a lot of the nutrients and the fertilizer that the soil would normally get if it wasn't. Like, even, I always think of forests when I think of the example of, oh, dead leaves, you know, lots of deer, whatever. But even in, well, we were talking about prairies, you know, in the southern half and the western half of Minnesota. I mean, like, just vegetation, ground cover, that provides enough organic matter to, like, create a useful soil. I mean, that's why all our crops are there. And by creating these farms, we're taking that away. But, yeah. Another thing I wanted to talk about, and I don't know if this is particularly applicable to what we're talking about, was, as you can see in the diagram up there is the roots. This is where the geomorphology comes from. Like, by tilling the soil, basically you take away whatever structure it had, which is going to make the, like, think about when you pick up, like, a crumbling soil, you can tell there's no structure there whatsoever, versus, like I keep mentioning in the forest where there's the roots, and even with the prairies where you have that, like, even just grass roots, they don't go very deep, but they're still creating a structure in the soil. And I don't know quite too much on this because I don't remember, but even, like, animals burrowing down, like, you'd think that would affect the soil negatively, but that still creates some of a structure, as we can see with the worm burrows. Yeah,
it's kind of the idea of, if you let nature take its course, it's evolved to be able to best interact with all the other aspects of it. But it's not evolved to deal with humans being like, you know what we're going to do? We're going to shave every little piece of living thing off of this path to make it into a path. We're going to take out all the weeds the second that we see them. Weeding's bad, right? Or am I wrong about that? I guess I don't actually know. Because weeds are weeds. They're not, like, necessarily helpful plants.
I'm trying to think about what what is the term weed?
Is it, I don't know.
Because I'm thinking, like, in the case of buckthorn, let me just set down my coffee here. In Minnesota, like, that stuff, you want to get out because it's an invasive species.
There is a difference between invasive species, but I guess maybe all weeds are invasive species. I don't know.
I was like, why is marijuana coming up?
I didn't even think about that.
I didn't think about that either. So let's see. According to Wikipedia, a wild plant growing where it is not wanted and in competition with cultivated plants. So, just basing off of that definition, I think weeding would be detrimental.
Yeah.
Because you're taking something that basically...
And it's a difference if it's an invasive species, because then you're just trying to restore an ecosystem rather than interact with an ecosystem.
I mean, like, oftentimes, ecosystems, I wouldn't... Yes, we said marijuana.
It's not 420 anymore, it's 422, which is Earth Day.
Earth Day!
We thought this through, totally.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we're not talking about marijuana. That was 2 days ago.
The Earth Sciences Department, we recently had our succulent sale, and we're like, let's have it on Earth Day. And, like, I don't know if just none of us looked it up, like, or whatever, because I was part in planning this. Just one person said Earth Day was this Wednesday. And so, like, the Earth Sciences Department planned our Earth Day succulent sale for not only the wrong day, but 420, right?
I feel like that's just a really funny prank that just happened.
I don't... Because I remember, like, and this is me being somewhat of a spineless person, I'm very trusting, where we were talking about Earth Day, and I Googled Earth Day and saw it was a Friday, and I was like, they're probably right, though. Like, even though I Googled it, I had the fact, I'm like, I trust them more than I trust myself. But, yeah, or, like, and with the idea of, like, cultivated plants, because that, obviously, the level of cultivation changes, whether you're talking about, like, gardening or cultivation, or, I mean, not cultivation, agriculture, right? I took a plants course, like, 2 years ago, and I learned that morning glories are an invasive species, and, like, are an actual problem, yet, in the spring you go to these, like, gardening centers, and they're everywhere. They're selling them, and it's like...
Well, what are we going to do about it?
What are we going to do? Like, with buckthorn, I think anyone in the plants... community knows.
Things aren't heating up in that aspect of the plant community. Everyone's united front.
You see morning glories. It's
morning glories, that's where the real drama is.
Yeah, like, they're pretty. I like vining plants. Like, I am a sucker for vining plants. I think that's my, like...
Aura,
my vibe. That's not the point. Just, like, I think if I knew anything else, I would say morning glory was a weed. But you purposefully planted it there because it's pretty.
So it's that, by definition, is not a weed under the Google definition that we got.
Yeah. Removing unwanted plants. You're wanted in my heart, dandelion. I don't even like yellow. I just like dandelions for the stance.
Dandelions kind of sick though.
They taste so bad.
I think I have eaten one before, and yeah, they're not great.
Like,
but
the juice in the vines, like, you accidentally get on your fingers and then you lick your fingers. Awful. Oh, I have more to say on this. Alright, and you might be wondering, Marjorie, why did you include mountain and trees?
That's exactly what I was thinking.
I love mountains, and I love trees. Huge fan. But this goes back onto the soil structure aspect of, like, if a lot of the times where you're able, and there's no landslide in this image, but a lot of times where you're able to look at, like, where landslides occur, like, this is a south-facing versus a north-facing slope with no human, at least from what I know, like, no anthropological effect or whatever the term is there, right? So you see that the south-facing slope is where all the plants are growing, and the north-facing slope is where there's, like, only some trees. So if there's a landslide, it's most likely going to occur on a south-facing slope because,
interesting,
there's no roots holding the dirt together. It's like you have to depend on the integrity of the soil itself without the...
Can't trust that soil.
can't trust that soil.
That soil went and had a dirt baby with someone else.
I see that dirt baby scuttling around. That doesn't look like me. That's not my child.
I got you off topic, but I'm sorry.
Oh no, I think, let me look at my presentation notes. I think that's all I had to say on that bit. I don't think I said it in, oh, actually, I do have more to say. And we can move on to the next slide if we want to.
You want me to say on this one or go to the next one?
We can move on to the next one. Because I think just going into, like, a no-till versus
See you, Matthew Smartell, by the way. Thanks for showing out.
Bye! Oh my gosh. Is that Stitch? What is that little thing? Is that Chinchilla?
I think so.
So cute.
Someone else's emo. It's pretty cute.
Oh, that's really adorable.
Yeah.
Okay.
Every time I see them in the chat, it's like, aw, I love those emotes.
They're so cute. Alright, I think just going on to tilling versus no tilling, like I said, huge part of tilling upsets the soil structure, which means that there's going to be more erosion, more like water runoff. Like it just accelerates everything that you don't want to accelerate in the soil, right? So, yeah. I lost track of what I was saying completely. But as you can see here, like this is a till versus a no-till, like upper right image, where like you can even see they're leaving organic matter to decompose, right? And that's going to add so many more nutrients. And I didn't really get super far into the disadvantage of the no-till versus conventional. So a lot of the stuff you're reading, at least I was reading, was super into like, this is why no-tilling is the best, and we're not going to bring up anything negative about it. So with my brief research, a huge part of it is the no-till equipment is going to be super expensive off the bat. You know, you're basically going to have to redo your entire system.
Yeah, and that's an issue that is, first off, that's just an issue in society in general where, as someone who's an economics major, I can speak on this. People don't like to change stuff for the good of humanity if they cause an economic cause. They will change stuff for the good of humanity if they can prove that it's going to have a future economic benefit. That's one thing where people's long-term plans can actually work out. But telling people they need to have this high cost for something that is potentially debated on value for human life, for their own profits, and has risk factors to it, it's going to be hard to get people to switch what they're doing.
Which is wild. It's just like, I know, and I'm not an economics major. I was on the econ team in high school, no. I remember nothing. But
I have no idea what an econ team would be.
Really? We went to the Federal Reserve. That's where we had our competitions.
That's fun.
Yeah, we got second place. Not to brag.
It's pretty good.
Pretty good. I was the VIP, which means I answered most questions correctly.
You're pretty smart.
Yeah, so. And I remember nothing about econ.
So, okay.
Nothing stuck.
Pretty cool, though.
Pretty cool. But yeah, it's just crazy to think that, like, we do have solutions out there. And it's like when you're so ingrained in your ways, and it's like...
People aren't willing to do a solution alone, is really where a lot of it comes down to. And if no one's taking that first step, and I'm talking about, like, big, not economic, but yeah, economic giants, but also economic companies that are doing a lot in terms of environmental impact, they will lose their business if they give in and no other company gives in. And then they didn't save anything. They just go out of business, and there's an issue with that. And trying to mandate stuff with government, first off, has a bunch of political issues about it. Trying to figure out how to get any environmental policy passed is difficult for that. But also, they will fight against that because they're trying to figure out the best way to do this. I'm thinking about the gas companies. They all know in and out the ideas of climate change. They have plans in their own company for how to deal with that. But they're trying to do the best aspect to deal with pollution right now to not mess with their profits. It's not that they're not thinking of the future. They're just trying to maintain their company in a way that if all of them do it the same way, It's not going to work. They're all doing the game theory chicken, where the first one to give out isn't going to do well, but we're headed towards disaster right now, so we have to switch soon.
Oh, don't like that.
Yeah. In a lot of ways, the world's just fucked.
Yeah.
But it's both more fucked and less fucked than people think. Because humanity is going to survive. Yeah, there's irreversible climate change that's going to happen, but there's going to be a breaking point in society, and I don't know at what level it will be, but there is a breaking point in society where there will be a united front and people are doing environmental-based policies, and that is like the forefront of the human experience for likely decades, where that's the key issue that everyone's facing. Humanity kind of unites on a front of this, even though there will be probably terror going around in society because people are being displaced, having to deal with society and all that. It's scary to think about it, but at the same time, it's probably the majority of humanity. A lot of it's going to be similar to how it was before, just with more disasters, more craziness going on. Once people are finally like, this is where we're going to have to deal with it. The whole question is, what point is that breaking point? And it's hard to determine when that's going to be, but I do believe there has to be a breaking point.
Yeah. I think, like, I'm trying to think, because, what is it? Is it in the 80s when the whole ozone thing happened, where
I don't know what the decade was.
There was, like, holes in the ozone layer or whatever, and everyone's like, this is what we need to do to, like, fix this because this is bad. And basically everyone worked together, and it worked out, right? Like, ultimately worked out. That was, like, the most summarized version of what happened. And it's not really, like, so far as I can see, not super applicable to how we're, like, dealing with climate change, because I might be wrong on these numbers, but 2 degrees Celsius above the global average, or not the global average, like, global average of above, like, what the average was before the Industrial Revolution, is what we're aiming for, right? So...
And that's still really bad.
Oh, yeah, like, let's see. We're at 1.2 degrees Celsius above, I believe. So, let's see. I'm trying to think of, like, everyone's trying to be, like, carbon-free by 2050, right? And if, like, even looking at the University of Minnesota, I was talking to Shane Stennis, who is our, one of the heads of the Department of, is it climate science? I don't think it's climate science. He's a really cool dude, and we had this discussion where if you look at, even if, like, everywhere that's saying it's going, all the companies that are saying they're going to be carbon-free by 2050, like, I think we're averaging to get to about 2.5 degrees Celsius above. And I could be wrong. So 3 is basically, like, not inevitable at this point, and that's when the apocalyptic, like, dangers will come forth. 2 degrees, still not going to be great. And then you have to, like, take into account the, like, communities and the people who are going to be disproportionately affected, you know, by climate change, where it's the people who are actually not the ones who are the driving forces of climate change right now, are the ones who are going to be absolutely devastated. But that's a whole other conversation.
You want a controversial opinion of mine?
What?
If we could make billionaires immortal, that might be one of the best things we could do for the future of humanity, because that would force them to have a care for the future, more so for how they're going to be living within it.
See, that's...
It might be an optimistic view in terms of a lot of aspects of it, but, and I'm not going to say, first off, everything that's going on with society is billionaires' fault. I don't personally believe that. I feel like there's a lot more aspects to stuff about that. But I also believe that a lot of the world's elite, you only get to a certain level of life like that by living your life in a way where you are intentionally trying to grab as much as you can for yourselves, which is a quality that is not necessarily desired for most of society, but in terms of running a business, is something that is good in a CEO. It gets you more profits, and that's what shareholders want, and from, like, an economic standpoint for that. But I think that's my controversial take.
I'm going to raise your controversial take with another controversial take, and if the world's elite just didn't exist in the first place, I think we'd be way better off.
Yeah.
I mean, I obviously, like, with your point of them being immortal and me saying that if they just didn't exist, like, I can see what you're saying.
Yeah, we're kind of arguing the same point.
We're arguing the same point where it's like, this wouldn't happen, right? Like, and if like, whatever, Jeffrey Bezos didn't exist, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, someone would rise up.
Someone would. There was always going to be an Amazon, and the Amazon was going to have a figurehead. But the fact that it's Jeff Bezos is just the reality that we have right now. It's a name and a face and a person that someone was going to have the rise of online shopping.
But that someone could have prevented a whole lot of what's going on right now.
I think one argument that I might have is maybe not, because under the idea of to be at the head of a position like that, to be able to run a company that's one of the biggest companies in the world, I don't know if you can have that level of empathy for society. You have to exploit, in a sense, to get to that size of a business. I don't think there's a completely ethical mannerism to operate a business to become as big as that.
You know, that's completely fair. However, I just wish society existed in a way where that couldn't have happened. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, there is no way, like, I think, and I'm not super familiar with ethics. I've only taken environmental ethics, right?
Mm-hmm.
And watched The Good Place.
I mean, that's just a full morality lesson.
That hurts. That stuff hurted.
Mm-hmm.
There is no way in which I can see Elon Musk or Jeffrey Bezos as a good guy at all. Like, I don't think anyone who is a billionaire got to that point by being and that's exactly what you're saying, by being a good person. But
I feel they go against each other, and I'm not going to say, like, I won't take the full step of you right there of trying to ironclad the clause, say that everyone who's a billionaire is for sure off first. And first off, there's, like, people who can marry into being a billionaire. I'm not sure Jeff Bezos' former wife is.
Oh, I love Mackenzie Bezos.
I don't know that. There are other people, especially with more and more billionaires being made all the time, like now. I'm not going to say that to become a billionaire you have to have an inherent morality problem. I think there is a significant correlation between it.
I think to maintain being a billionaire, or, like, not even, because $1 billion is such a disproportionate amount of wealth that, at least from my standpoint, I can't even imagine.
It's not feasible if you think about it.
And
there is aspects of it where I do sometimes hear people complain, hey, these billionaires should be, like, donating way more percentage of wealth. And while, yes, that is completely true, there's also the fact that the vast majority of billionaire wealth is in non-liquid assets, meaning they would have to sell off their company to be able to do these actions with cash, and that would crush their net wealth. They don't have useful cash right now.
They're still buying a crazy amount of things, right?
Oh, totally.
And then you brought up Mackenzie Bezos, Jeff Bezos' ex-wife, where, what was it? She started out at her divorce, and these numbers might be wrong, at like...
I didn't prepare notes on this topic, so
let's go.
I'm not going to fact check you.
Like, what was it? Her net worth was at like $8 billion, right? And she has been, like, donating a crazy amount, right? And it's not even under her name, and yet we know, like, it's attributed to her, which is another thing where it's like, I think if more billionaires were doing good, I think the common people would know about it, or at least people like me who read up on this stuff. But that's off the point. Where, like, I think she's at like 14 billion now, despite her giving away. She just can't give it away fast enough.
Yeah, you can't make it liquid. The time that it takes to make your assets liquid is less than the time that you're making money just by your stocks appreciating and going up. And that, once you're at that level of wealth, that's just wild.
And I don't think anyone should be at that level of wealth, right?
Like, I can understand any argument against that. The idea behind it is stopping it might be morality wrong, because what are you stopping there? But having a cap, having a you win trophy for the world's elite, I don't know the best way to deal with that. As an economics major, all I know is the tendencies that you have to try and be a successful CEO. Because, I mean, I don't know what percent of billionaires are CEOs, but it's got to be like over 90%.
That's to be a crazy amount.
I gotta assume basically all of them are from the business world, where they're leading these giant corporations that are super valued. To be able to do that in an effective way that you're not going to be replaced by your board of directors, you have to essentially be doing everything you can to get your company $1 more profit. And to have the tendencies to do that well, you have to sacrifice some of your moralities, because you're going to have to try and fight off unions. This is why there's always in the bill, like Amazon union rights. There, you've got to try and exploit different parts of the environment, getting back to all of the dirt conversations that led into this, trying to figure out how, it's just, there's a case of being a billionaire.
And I definitely see what you're saying, and like from what I know about economics and how like capitalism works or whatever, you know, like they're stuck in having to have this continuous growth. I'm saying that, and not we as a society, but like lawmakers and stuff. Like think about with just the history of unions, you know, of like having respect for basic human welfare, in which, you know, like you double the amount of the employees at Amazon versus employees anywhere else are having like back problems and like that sort of stuff. It's like I understand from an economic standpoint that, you know, you could say Jeffrey Bezos is doing the right thing by, you know, his whatever, and this is like coming from someone who's an environmental geosciences student, you know, not an economics student. I would like to make that clear in case I'm saying any like really bad stuff. Like, at some point the government needs to step in, and basic human welfare should be the number one priority. And I understand why it's not. That doesn't mean that we agree why it's not, right?
Not, I mean, that's kind of the concept of it, and that's where a lot of this will get down to a political discussion, where it may be hard to have discussions down the line. The way that the current capitalist system is set up is it's your legal right, or not legal right, like legal mandate to be, as a CEO, fighting for the best interest of your shareholders. That's what part of being a holder of a share of stock in a company is about. You have to be fighting for that. And it's hard to see how all of that can work with the qualms that we're facing in the current society. But that economic reform is something that is far beyond the topics of this dirt-based discussion that we're currently having. That might have to be another podcast episode.
Oh, definitely. I would love to have more research into this because, like I said, environmental geoscience student.
All right. Let's try and get back on topic for a second here. Maybe wrap this up. All right. What do you think is the best thing we can do with soil in an urban environment? How do we deal with it? How do we make it better? How do we try and promote healthy soil within the urban life?
Let's see. That's a big question.
Yes.
Let's wrap this up. Ask the biggest question. I think just, I'm a huge fan of native plants. I think that's one of the best things you can do. I'm anti-lawn. I understand how difficult it would be to, you know, like, just completely change your lawn.
Yes.
Is that what we mean by urban soil? Like lawns?
Okay, yeah.
Like, even in parks. I understand the point of parks, like big grassy areas. But yeah, I'm a huge fan of moss lawns. Just supporting pollinators. There's a lot of native plants in Minnesota that you could easily plant in your yard. And, you know, like, kind of start having, like, recreating your own little ecosystem of which, you know, there's going to be bugs. There's going to be gross stuff. There's going to be worms. Earthworms are an invasive species in Minnesota.
I think I had heard about that.
Yeah, I did not know that. But off topic. Yeah, I think just returning to the land knows itself better than. I don't want to say that. You know,
The land knows itself better than we do.
And by we, I mean
Society and
that
how
has,
we're interacting with it.
Yes. Obviously, there are people who know way more about the land.
Obviously, like, the Earth doesn't actually know anything about it. As far as I know, the Earth is not sentient. But it has tools in place through just different evolution, different species interaction to learn.
I mean, Venus with those tectonic plates, she ought to know what she's doing now. That's my argument for sentience.
For sentient
Planet
planets.
sentience.
Alright, if every planet was sentient, which one would be the smartest and which would be the dumbest? I feel
Jupiter would be the dumbest.
like Mercury's pretty dumb.
Okay, hold the phone. We are not staying on. Okay, you know what? Yeah, Mercury might be pretty stupid, but like, Mercury as a planet is so freaking cool, and I know very little about planets. But like, the oval, you know, like rotation, orbit. That's the word. The oval orbit, super cool, right? Like to be able to go against the grain and to do something yourself and make it work, work.
Mm-hmm.
I think you have to be pretty smart for that. To be able to have like such a non-homogeneous terrain and maybe even terrain is not the right
Alright, you're
word.
convincing me.
Like, Mercury is both hot enough to melt lead and colder than, like, any temperature we can even imagine. At least I can imagine, you know, like, with the small amount of temperatures that humans can live in. At the same time, what? And I know that's because whatever, it's, like, close to the sun or whatever, but it's so cool. That's so cool. I think Mercury's pretty smart.
Yeah, you convinced me.
Hell yeah.
Pluto's pretty dumb, though, right?
Yeah.
It's not even a planet.
Not even a
Or is it
planet.
a planet again?
No.
Okay. It's flopped in my lifetime multiple times, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Or at least once.
At least once.
It's a dwarf planet, right?
That's what I know, but I think at one point it got reclassified as a planet.
Is it a planet? Hold on. I'm sorry.
Yeah, this is a good debate. I want to know this now.
Planet.
This is very important for dirt.
It's a dwarf planet.
Okay.
That makes sense. Oh yeah, and I am by no means an expert on dirt. But with the little amount of research that I've done, I think, like, literally, yeah, the best thing you can do is to try and reintroduce what the soil already been knew. Like if I was talking to the soil would be like, yeah, I've been new.
Mm-hmm.
I'd tell it stuff and it'd be like, yeah, we know that.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Listen to the soil.
Listen to the soil.
I think that's where we might end this one off. That's good.
Yeah.
That's a good phrase for that. Listen to the soil.
Listen to the soil.
It knows better than us on how to deal with itself.
Yes.
And it takes time maybe for it to get back. It's been beaten down in the past, but it's not irreversible. Unless it is.
I don't think it's
But I don't think it's broken.
No.
I think it can get back up, stand on its 2 feet, reinvent itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, year of...
I stand with soil.
I stand with soil. Year of our good Lord... of our gourd. Year of our gourd! Oh my gosh. Year of our good Lord, 2022. Reinvent yourself like soil does. Also, listen to Anthony Kiedis' I Like Dirt. That's a good song.
Alright. I think that's going to wrap this up. Thank you for taking your time for this. It was very insightful. I really enjoy... I don't know that much about Earth science stuff, you know? It's fun to learn that they also don't know when Earth Day is.
That's so embarrassing. I'm sorry. Alright.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone who tuned in or listened up. It was a fun one. Take care.